You're just tuning in. Welcome to King's Talk on the Lapeef Network. Make sure you guys get those likes up. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. I like that, man. That was some good insight, fellas. I'll move on to our next topic. I was watching the Breakfast Club clip a little earlier, and there's a brother by the name of Jason Wilson. Jason Wilson. He was on the Breakfast Club. Jason Wilson wrote a couple books. His most recent book, can feedback. His most recent book is Battle Cry, and he also wrote Cry Like a Man. All right, let's talk about that. Jason Wilson. When a man tells you he's tired, pay attention. When a man tells you he's tired, pay attention. I'm gonna start with you, Trill. It's a lot to unpack in that video. What were your thoughts? You're on mute.
Yeah, my bad. My immediate thoughts was I agree 1,000%. I think especially black men, we are raised to be emotionless machines. And the reason is because it's such a gap between us and, the other culture, whatever the case may be. And it's like as a black man, you always feel like we gotta prove ourselves. We always feel the need to prove ourselves, whether it's on a job, whether it's in our relationship. Like we getting beat down from every angle. Every angle. So with that, just like you said with the whole stay strong, bro. It's like to be honest, like men don't really have a chance to really sit back and reflect and like understand. Like, damn, I'm really tired right now because it's so much that's dependent on our success. Our kids, our wife, our livelihood, and again closing this gap that I speak about. So it's men that are in relationships that don't even get to express themselves to their girl and tell her, hey man, I didn't when you did that, it rubbed me the wrong way, or I didn't really like, when you did that. Like we could see that as weakness. Like any sign of vulnerability at all is just seen as weakness as a black man. So, and that starts from young. I get an example all the time. Like if it's a little boy in a room and a little girl in a room at a family function, and the little girl falls, everybody runs up to her. Oh man, you all right, baby? You good? You okay? But if a little boy falls, man, get up. What you crying for? You a man? Man, don't cry. What is you doing? You get up. Walk that off. Like it's that. So it's programmed in us from young. So we come up, grow up, and just constantly believing like, any sign of vulnerability is weakness. That's why even with black men, when we walk in a room full of black men, most dudes we gonna walk in there mean mugging everybody. It is not because we mad at them. It's not because we got no issues with them or nothing, but it's just setting the tone. Hey, I'm not to be played with in here. You know what I'm saying? And that's so unnecessary when you grow older and you realize it. But when you're young, it's like, hell no, I gotta make sure ain't nobody gonna play with me in here. I gotta make sure I don't look weak. I gotta make sure I don't look soft, whatever the case may be. When we get hurt, we walk it out. You good, bro? Yeah, I'm good. Wife just left from of 20 years. Your homeboy's at, hey, bro, you all right? Yeah, bro, I'm good. But in reality, he ripped apart inside. But how do we communicate that when we ain't had no practice leading up until this point? Because again, we are programmed to be emotionless machines. So I agree with that. That has to change. And that attributes to, why we dying so young and why our suicide rate is so high, because we go about life just holding so much stuff in because we feel like we don't have an outlet. Like we don't get the chance to take a break and just gather ourselves. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody else does. So, I mean, I say that to say that I agree with dude 1,000%, and that got to change, bro.
Okay. Shan. Jason Williams said, when a man tells you he's tired, pay attention. What were your thoughts?
Agreed. I'm not sure I can add anything to what Trill said. Think about, I don't know how it is, and I'm assuming it's the same in Chicago, Detroit, New York. Out here in LA, do you guys remember at the time when, and it's funny that Trill mentioned that, when dudes just go out and they practice their mean mug in the mirror, practiced it, like and practice they walk, and we used to have a pimp, we used to call it a pimp in our walk. So you'd have a pimp in your walk, and so you always walk and you'd kick up in the air. We used to do that in the 80s, right? It's crazy. And then the older you got, and I know you did it because that's how 50 Cent portrayed it in that movie, Get Rich or Die Trying. Young, just walking down the street, you just got to be mad and mean mug everybody. You can't just be like, hey man, it's good to see you, brother. How you doing? Hey, you become that older, but when you're young, you got to just be hard, right? And make no mistake, I don't believe in a toxic masculinity. I don't believe in that term, right? It's just masculinity as far as I'm concerned. But some of the stuff that part of that masculinity, we got to start teaching people that you can hug, you can talk, you can express, you can open yourself. and so you can get your feelings out, and that's important. And it's just something that we aren't doing, or we haven't done historically as men. And I think we need to start adding that into the way that we're raising our young boys into men, to let them know that it's okay to be soft and to express yourself and talk about, you know, your feelings, man. And it needs to come from men to men, because the women are there. The women are there. A lot of times men shut the women out, don't want to hear it from them because, you got to be bravado and be strong and whatnot. But the moment that men allow other men to be vulnerable, I think that we'll start doing a whole lot of healing, especially in our community, man.
Yeah. I'm gonna comment on this one too. I think this kind of hit a little bit of home for me because I was raised, and I don't know where I got this, that men don't cry, that men just handle things on their own. We just figure it out. We don't have anybody to turn to. So I think of instances like when I fall, right? When I trip, I'm so manly that I'm looking back to see who seen me, and versus the pain. It's like, who saw me look like this? Who seen me up in this vulnerable, weak moment right here where I couldn't even walk straight and I tripped. So when I look at my kids, I've been listening to this guy, Jason Wilson, for a little bit. I haven't read none of his books, but I've been listening to the message he preach. I follow him on social media, and I'm looking at how he mentored these young boys and what he's teaching them. He's teaching them to be vulnerable, to be able to express how they feel, and saying that you're not less of a man because you express yourself this way. I can't really say if I agree, and it's because I just been conditioned for so long to preach that if you crying, you crying like a girl. If you my son and you a male and you doing all this whining, you acting like a girl. You act like a girl. So I'm wondering if I'm thinking wrong, or if there's any possibility that there's some truth to this. The reason why I say that is because, I think it was last week or a couple of weeks ago, we had a state trooper that committed suicide in Chicago. This state trooper right here, he was found with a gunshot wound, and everybody thought that it was somebody that shot him, and he shot himself. They called him Hulk. That's what they called him, Hulk. So I'm wondering if we don't have an outlet, if these will be the results. May not happen now, may not happen at all, but are we preaching the wrong message? I'm still not sure. That's the reason why I like to have these conversations, because I'm already conditioned and it's going to be hard for me to turn back, but I'm trying to see which way to lead my children, to see if, go ahead.
They say if you a street nigga and your son is a street nigga, then you failed as a father. If you a street nigga, if you a gangbanger and your son grows up to be a gangbanger, then you failed as a father. So while we are set in our ways, JR, and while we are already old dogs and it's hard to teach us new tricks, we still know what's best and we still know what's right and wrong. And so when it comes to teaching your son, man, even though it's hard, it's been ingrained in you, you can show both sides to your boys. You can show both sides to your boys, and then you'll be all right, and then they'll be all right. It's all about getting rid of, it's all about, teaching the young, man. Who was it? W.B. Du Bois? Help me out, fellas. That said, it's easier to raise up. It's easier to
easier, than to repair broken men. Yeah, I don't know if that was Booker T though, or
it might have been Booker T. Washington.
Yeah,
it could have been Booker T. Washington or Du Bois. I'm not sure. If I'm not watching the chat, but I'm sure they're gonna correct me in the chat. But that's important. And so as long as you know, man, remember, knowledge is what matters, JR. And so while you may be struggling with it for yourself because it's been ingrained in you so far and so much, you still know better than to make sure that your son is not going to be the gangbanger or that street nigga that you probably was when you were young. So I don't think you're going to have a problem as long as you recognize it. It's the best, it's no different than recovering from alcoholism. The first step is to acknowledge that you're an alcoholic. If you acknowledge that that's an issue with you, then you won't have no problems with your boy. Trust me.
And that's the thing. I think we speak a lot in absolutes, man, when in terms of men. Like, it got to be, okay, we either super manly or we weak and we femaleish. Like, there's room in between. You know what I'm saying? I feel like that's what has to get taught. Just because you express yourself, it don't mean that I won't knock somebody's head off if they play with me. You know what I'm saying? But it's just like I can be vulnerable, like, and just bit of transparency. I think with me and my old lady, our relationship didn't hit the sweet spot until I learned that it was okay to voice my concerns. You know, different things that she was doing that was making me uncomfortable, or, you know, maybe the way she talking to me, I ain't really rocking with, you know what I'm saying? But as a man, like, how do you say, hey man, I feel like you talking to me a little too rough? You know what I'm saying? Like, growing up the way we program, that sound crazy. But when, you know, when I actually learned to just sit her down, like, look, man, like, relax. Like when you say this, this makes me feel this way. Or when you do this, this makes me feel that way. You know what I'm saying? And that's, you know, contributing to a lot of our disconnect. And we was able to have real conversations in ways that most men would look at and be like, oh, that's not manly, bro. You just supposed to take that to the chin, bro. She ain't, you know, whatever. But when you learn that it's okay to be vulnerable, not saying you be a sad sack that's crying every second of the day. Again, that's the absolutes that we speak in. It's like, okay, you either got to be tough and suck it all in, or you just a walking crybaby. No, there's room in between. And as men, we got to find that room in between. And that's going to help us not only in life and experiences with each other, but in our relationships. Because to be honest, it's men that been cool 20 years and still can't have vulnerable conversations. Unless it's just in super, just dire need. Hey, bro, I'm about to get kicked out of my crib. I ain't going to be able to, you know what I'm saying? It got to be dire. But, you know, rarely ever do you know, when your boys ask you, what's up, bro? You good? First thing you say is, I'm straight. I'm cool. You might have just lost your job. Your girl just cheated on you. You know what I'm saying? Your other homie just died, or whatever the case may be. But as a black man, you just feel like, man, nah, I'm straight, bro. I'm good. Unless it's just on the edge. And that has to change, bro.